Hi, everyone, and welcome to On the Margins. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey, founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain with my wingman over here, MVK.
What's up? You ready?
I am so ready for another episode.
Good.
And we are doing it live here at 𝙈𝙖𝙧𝙜𝙤, but this isn't going to come out till June, and we're getting a sneak peek today, which is fun. But before we do that, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah, good to see everyone. My name is Michael van Keulen, or MVK. I am with 𝙈𝙖𝙧𝙜𝙤. I am a procurement evangelist, as I like to call myself.
What does that mean?
It just means that I am so passionate and so excited about the practice and profession of procurement that it's oozing out of every part of my being. How does that sound?
Thank you for that, because I hear the word evangelist a lot, but I don't necessarily.
Yeah, I know it sounds a bit vague, but it's, I mean, I've been in procurement and supply chain and finance for over 20 years. I just think that it's the coolest profession on the planet. And I am just so grateful that I get to talk about it and help raise the bar and hopefully inspire some people, which is what we're here to do today and yesterday.
It is, and I think it's so fitting for you.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I think it's a very, very good title.
No, I appreciate it.
Now, because this is coming out in June, why don't you tell everybody where you're going to be? Where in the world is MVK going to be in June?
So we are going to take Inspire on the road.
On the road?
On the road, and we're going to go do a world tour. So I almost got to feel like a rock star, kind of.
I mean, you kind of are a rock star.
Maybe a little, but thank you. I appreciate it. No, but we're going to be in Frankfurt. I'll be in London. Where we're going to go bring everything that we've been talking about here on stage, but also breakouts with our customers and our partners, and we're going to bring that show on the road and really continue to spread the evangelism.
Is it the MVK Roadshow or the MVK's Coupa Roadshow?
No, that would be way too crazy. Look, we've got a fabulous company. We've got more than 3,000 employees. I recognize that I am very externally visible. I consider that an honor. I feel like I'm at the peak of my career, which is, I hope everyone can say that where you are in your career today, that you are at your peak and that you continue to try to raise the bar.
Absolutely.
I'm super grateful that I get to do that. It's 100% the Coupa Roadshow, and I play a role in that. And again, I just consider that an honor and a privilege, for real.
Amazing, amazing. Well, I can't wait to hear when you get back all the things you've learned, all the people you've talked to, so many things. But today, we're here to talk about some survey results, and we're changing things up a little bit because you're going to be on the other side of the mic, and I'm going to be asking all the questions today.
Nice.
Now, before we do that, let's bring Ryan to the show. Hello, Ryan. How are you? Why don't you tell everybody who you are and what you do?
Yeah, hi, Sarah. Hey, MVK. Good to see you again. So my name is Ryan Flynn. I'm a partner at Deloitte Consulting. Like MVK, I've been doing procurement for over 20 years, try to be an evangelist in the procurement space as well. Fell in love with it when I first started in consulting back in the early 2000s and have been doing it ever since. I also lead our global CPO survey, which is in its 12th version now.
Wow.
And we'll be talking a little bit about that moving forward. Excited to share the results.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear some of the results. Why do you have the survey? Why is the survey so important? What does it do for everybody?
You know, when we started it, we felt like there wasn't a really good gauge of procurement sentiment out there. And at that time, we were starting to see procurement become a lot more of an important function in the organization, the CPO's role becoming a lot more important in organizations, and we wanted to help elevate that role as well. And so what we tried to do in the survey is capture where procurement's at, what CPOs are thinking, and what they're concerned about, the successes they've had, and what they're planning to do moving forward to continue to add value to their organizations.
Yeah, and I think everybody, this is going to be launched in June.
Correct.
And everybody's going to be able to have access to that, correct?
Yes, yep, it will be.
Great. Well, we can't wait for that. So let's kick this off, and I'm going to start with you, MVK, because we can't really talk about, leaders, procurement, supply chain without talking about generative AI. So how do you see that transforming the procurement function?
Yeah, look, I think for the longest time, we've always struggled with the amount of work that we're in. It's sometimes very tactical.
And it's getting more
and it's getting more and more every day, right? Complexity, geopolitically, tariffs, and everything is going on in supply chain, and so it's only getting more. And I think what AI and generative AI and LLMs, where they're going to really help us is to finally get out of this tactical, repetitive, sometimes even like non-value added work, that could be around, contract reviews. It could be that there's value in contract reviews, yeah, but it's like we typically negotiate and look at the same clauses. If you think about autonomous sourcing, if we think about making sure there's compliance to contracts, and there's a lot of tactical work that
and
is
repetition.
and I think that's where generative AI is just going to help us unlock our full potential. I think there's never been a more exciting time to be in procurement, honestly, with everything that's happening on the technology side, that we can finally reach our full potential.
Is that the sentiment that you're getting here at Coupa Inspire from leaders?
Yeah.
Is that they're excited about it and that they're excited to sort of figure out where it fits in?
Yeah, and I heard some of your reactions when Salva was on main stage talking about the product and some of the AI capabilities that we're building, and that are in some cases already in the product today, that there was applause, around supplier onboarding and managing the risk in your supply chain. And there's so much that we can unlock now with the power of technology. And again, the testament was yesterday when Salva was on stage, when Lee talks about it. It's such an unlock, and it's never been more exciting. Honestly, I cannot wait to see all of that come to fruition in the product.
Well, and Ryan, it's changed a lot over the last 20 years in procurement. The technology, it's come a long way. How is Gen AI different from what we've seen in digital procurement, digital technology in that time?
So it's really game-changing and transformative, I think, in a way that kind of previous versions of digital procurement haven't quite been. They've helped to do a lot of automation, analytical work, free up some time. But the promise of not only Gen AI, but agentic AI, which is also coming to the fore now, we're seeing a lot of talk about that. We've heard a lot about that at Inspire, very exciting, is that it can really do the work that people do. And that's what we found in the survey. MBK mentioned it earlier, is that procurement has been almost a victim of its own success a little bit. The survey found that, especially from our 2023 survey, CPOs are continuing to do better in terms of the value that they add to the business, not just cost savings, cost avoidance, but also innovation, supporting M&A, risk management, all these other areas. But we're living in a world now that, as MVK mentioned, is not only increasingly complex, but also kind of resource constrained. And so when I talk to CPOs, and what we found in the survey is that CPOs are sort of feeling like they need to do more with less.
Right.
And that's where digital procurement and Gen AI come in. Digital procurement can kind of lay that foundation for you, help you automate a lot of your end-to-end processes. And then Gen AI and agentic AI, they can really sort of fill in a lot of the gaps and make it a lot more human in terms of how it interacts with end users.
Right.
And that's really exciting. And so what we found is that CPOs are really thinking about this as something that will help them continue to do that mission, the evangelism of delivering value to the organization with, kind of the same set of resources, and be able to continue to do that amidst, incredibly, more complexity coming into the situation. The survey was done before even the tariff situation came out. So that's just another thing on top of the plate that, CPOs already have to deal with.
Yeah.
So what we found in the survey was that, CPOs are really focusing on technology, and they're devoting more of their budget to that. And the theme of the survey this year is around placing bets. So what are the bets that CPOs are placing on digital procurement and Gen AI, agentic AI, and then what are some of the payouts that they're seeing? And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move on.
Yeah, that's exciting. But also that perceived value that you talked about, right?
Yes.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Is it not?
No, it is. Yeah.
It's about time.
Yeah.
And then agentic AI, can you just explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, so it's almost like having a digital assistant, but I think a lot more competent than the ones that we're used to these days. And it's something that an end user can interact with and ask questions of, and it can help guide them to be able to do the things that they want to be able to do. And so they don't have to necessarily go into a system and figure out how to create a contract, get that started, or develop a report on their spend. They can just ask the agentic AI to do that and provide that information for them. The other part of it that AI I think is really exciting is that it can cross systems a lot more easily than traditional technology where you had to do integrations. So that's a really exciting part of it. So if you need to create a report that goes across systems, maybe for finance or something like that, you can use AI to do that because it can pull that information from multiple systems and give you that information.
So many great use cases, and I want to ask you, how are you leveraging Gen AI? And I'm sure there's opportunities, I'm sure there's challenges. Can you talk a little bit about both? Because I think we're all sort of navigating through this world of AI, and we only know what we know today. We don't know what it's capable of necessarily in the long term. So what are you seeing? What are you experiencing?
Until recently, of course, I was the CPO at Coupa, which I no longer am. But look, I think the things where you can see actual use cases today are things like in contract reviews, for example, as I just said earlier. Autonomous sourcing has been around for a while. SpendGuard, as an example, detects fraud before it occurs, which is obviously what you want. Like historically, we would be faced with fraud and then try to mitigate that and then make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
Yeah, that's of course, if you're in that space, then obviously you're missing the boat. Like you should prevent it from happening in the first place.
Yeah.
It sounds pretty basic, pretty hard to do if you're a large global company. What SpendGuard does, it actually looks at behaviors, pattern recognition, and a lot of that is already available. Like so this is not something new. And I think that is super helpful. I think where it's going is exactly what Ryan was describing. It's just continuously, like it's almost like you have a digital twin of yourself.
Right.
And that digital twin is faster, learns much more quickly, is able to do it across all these different modules. That's why I find it fundamentally important that you have a platform that cuts across everything from sourcing all the way down to a payment and anything that's in between. That is going to continuously inform me and make me better as a professional.
Right.
And I think that's what we've always wanted. The technology has always been kind of lagging, and I think we're finally now seeing that the technology is going to leapfrog us, and so now we have to play catch up almost. And I think that's why agentic AI is so exciting. AI is exciting, but especially the agentic element and the constant learning and the constant evolution, I think is just going to keep evolving us. To your point, Ryan, like CPOs are getting involved with M&A, with innovation, deeper category management. I'm so excited that Certuo is part of the Coupa family. I cannot wait to see what that's going to do. Anyway, I can talk about it for a long time, but that's I think where the power is going to kind of.
Well, we have to learn how to use it too, right? We have to learn how to use it to our advantage, and we're still all trying to sort of figure it out and what it can do for me, right? Would you agree with what MVK just said?
Yeah, I think he put it very eloquently, and that's a great point. We need to learn how to use it, and we need to learn, because of what it does and what it can do, what to do with that extra time that it frees up.
That too.
And that's really one of the big
ideas.
I'm sure you do, but I'm not sure if we have time for that today. But I do want to ask you, like, how do you talk to your teams about it?
Yeah, I think we need to embrace it because it's going to happen. And so, you can either, fight, flight, or freeze, I think are the three things that you can do in life, right?
Fight or flight,
yeah, or freeze.
Or freeze,
but you should embrace it. That's my point. Like maybe it's the wrong.
You're in big trouble.
Yeah, if you're freezing and you're waiting, then it's the freight train is coming, right? But it's you got to embrace it as a team, and it's a tool in the toolbox. Don't be afraid. It's the same as when Excel came out, way back when. Microsoft, for those of us that remember, that were on Lotus Notes before, or Lotus 1, 2, 3, sorry, before.
I remember that.
I think Ryan, you and I
remember that.
Plus you started
the green screens, right?
But no, the thing is this, right? It's a tool in the toolbox. And don't be afraid. It's not going to replace procurement. It's not like procurement is gonna at some point no longer exist. I fundamentally don't believe that. It's going to allow us to be more strategic, and so embrace it. And that's what I encourage my team. That's why I encourage our customers, our prospective customers, or future customers, is to embrace it. Because it's there, it's going to happen, it's going to fundamentally help us raise the bar, and so embrace it.
Was that part of the survey as well, as how leaders are sort of talking about it to their teams, how their teams feel about it?
Yeah, we covered that in terms of how companies should think about it. And I agree exactly with what MVK said. You have to embrace it, not be afraid of it. Think of it as something that can, augment what you do, and make your life easier in a lot of ways. And that's what it's doing even today.
Well, and also, like, how are we teaching our teams how to use it? Or are we letting them go on their own to try to figure that out, which isn't really good for anybody, because we got to watch what we put sort of in ChatGPT, let's say.
Exactly. No, but it's a great point. Like, I mean, most folks on my team, when I had it until March 1st, but you could, in some cases, see that they were using ChatGPT to send me an email.
Right.
Because all of a sudden they're using different words. And I would ask them, said, did you use ChatGPT to write me this email? Yes, I did. I said, can you please stop doing that?
Right.
Because I don't want us to use ChatGPT for emails.
Right. So what do we use it for?
Because it's unstructured. Yeah, you can use it for, as I said before, for, I don't know, the birthday gift list for my wife. That's a great example.
Sure.
I've said this before, so I kind of repeat myself, sorry. But the point is, like, you want to be very, very cautious. And if you really just let your team embrace it, talk about it, make it a topic, don't walk away from it, don't pretend it's not there. You take away the risk that ChatGPT brings, or AI brings to any company, and teach them. And together talk about how can we drive and how can we use it in a professional, secure manner.
Right, because some of the fear comes from the fact that we might not know how to use it.
Yeah.
Or you're going to ask me to do something and I don't know how to do it, but we haven't had the training yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And then somebody doesn't want to put up their hand and be like, I don't know how to use this.
Yeah.
They're going to go and try and learn that themselves, but they're going to learn it in a way that isn't conducive to how you're doing business, how you want to do business, how you want your information out there. So, Ryan, what are some of the aspects beyond technology, right, that CPOs should be looking at when we're thinking about Gen AI? I know we just talked about team. That's a little bit beyond technology. We talked about teaching and learning and figuring out prompts and how to use it.
So I would say, you shouldn't think about it really as a technology or just a technology. You should think about it as a transformational opportunity.
I like that.
and I say that because it really can replace the work that people are doing. And so what that means is that people on procurement teams are going to have more time to do things, to do more value-added activities. And so with that in mind, you need to really be thinking about how you organize your operating model and how you upskill your team to be able to take advantage of that, because they should be getting away from those activities that they had to do before that were maybe more manual, more mundane. Should be getting into, hey, we have time to do more sourcing. We can contribute now to more driving innovation in the supply base and supplier relationship management. So what we found in the survey, which we see almost every year, is that I think more than half of CPOs said that they did not feel like either completely or to a large extent their teams could execute on their strategy. That's before AI is in place. So think about that. That means that there's a lot of runway opportunity for CPOs to upskill their teams to be able to do more, add more value to the business. But they can only do that if they think of it not just as, building this technology, putting it in place, but once I have it, what do I do with it? And how do I make sure that my team maximizes it? And what we found in the survey is that companies that are placing the right sort of bets in technology, that are investing more in technology, that are also investing more in their teams, are seeing greater payouts in terms of not only cost savings, but strategic influence in the business that they have, in the returns that they're getting from Gen AI, all these different areas. And I think that's just going to continue to be the case as companies that are investing more, making the right bets in these places around technology, they're going to be the winners of this. And you need to really think about that if you're a CPO.
It's such an interesting point, right? I never really thought about how leaders should be thinking about the time back that their team is going to get. What is it that we want our teams to be doing if they're not doing those repetitive tasks?
Yeah, like.
And I think we have to have those conversations, right?
Absolutely.
You can't just leave it. You need to talk to them about it and be like, when you get some time back and you've got some time gaps, this is what I'd like you to be working on, thinking about, taking action.
Yeah, I think that where the biggest value that we can unlock are in things like category strategies, category management, supplier relationship management, drive innovation, creativity. innovation. Like those are the, but also it could be about, hey, are there opportunities for me to further de-risk my supply chain?
Right.
Can I maybe drive better quality? You know, a lot of these things that I just said, you will, it's going to be very hard to have that be done by chatbots.
Yeah. Well,
right?
we're asking for time back.
No, we want.
What are you going to do with
exactly? Yeah, but it's kind of the other element is unless you make that pivot, you might actually be out of a job, right?
Right.
So it's not just using the time in a more efficient and effective manner where we can drive more value, but it's also the pivot that if you want to be in procurement that you have to make. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, if you are in a downstream, you know, again, repetitive type of task, some people love that kind of work. I don't judge them for that. But unless you want to make the pivot, yeah, then you might actually end up finding yourself out of work, which obviously you don't want anyone to
Or
be.
going to a different organization.
Yeah, go to a different organization, obviously, but I'm saying out of work in a company that, you know, like,
Absolutely.
so really, it's an opportunity for us to really up-level.
Yeah.
I heard a great quote the other day about CPOs, and it was that CPOs should sell more than they buy. And I thought that was a really
Okay.
Yes.
interesting quote because it.
Love that.
Where did that come from?
I heard it at a CPO roundtable that we hosted
Okay.
in San Jose. And I think it really speaks to the fact that, you know, with this extra time, if you want to add that more value to the business in some of these different areas that we're talking about, you need to be out in the business selling them on, you know, the fact that you can do this, that it's going to bring, you know, cost savings or risk mitigation or more innovation to them from their supply base. And that's what, you know, we find a lot of CPOs saying that they want to do. So we asked them the skills gaps that they had that were the biggest. Digital literacy was number one, not surprisingly, because that's a part of it as well. But two of the next three were around consulting skills and soft skills. And I think that's really where CPOs are going to have to invest with their teams to try to build those capabilities, because with that extra time, they should be going out into the business, out with their supply base, and selling the value that they can deliver.
100%.
But also, I think, you know, selling that sort of upskilling as well, that pivot that you were
Yeah.
talking about. You
Yeah.
got to talk to your teams. And,
Yes.
you know,
No, but I really like what you're saying, Ryan. I like that. I'm going to try to remember that. Can I steal it? Is that okay?
Yeah, I
can
haven't
have to
trademarked
quote
it
him.
yet.
Quote him? I have to quote you, and then you
Yeah.
have to quote
Yes.
whomever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good
Ryan-
one. I like
Ryan
that.
from
I like
Deloitte.
that. Yeah.
You're going to be known around the world now.
Excellent.
All right, what advice do you have for CPOs on their, like if they're just in their beginning journey of implementing Gen AI?
Yeah, you know, just real quick, I think it's don't be afraid, get started, start somewhere, start small. I think it's very basic what I'm saying, yeah. You know, the crawl, walk, run approach really applies, but you got to get started and don't walk away from it and don't pretend it's not there.
Yeah. Like learn it.
Learn it. I think
Figure out how it's going to work.
Figure it out. Let's figure it out. Figure it out together. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. That's why we got the community. Let's go.
I love that. What about you? You got any advice from the survey results for CPOs looking into the future?
Yeah, I like the idea of getting started, you know, and even thinking about it from a use case perspective. So pick out a couple of areas that you can jump into it. And really, I would say leverage your software partners. We're seeing, you know, more and more software companies like Coupa really lean in and start to introduce more and more Gen AI, agentic AI features to their platforms. And that's a great way to do it because you already have all of that data there. And to the point of earlier of how to use it, that makes it a lot easier to use because you've got the data, you know what you want to do in that platform already. And, you know, leveraging that platform and the AI capabilities can help you get started, I think, a lot more quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point. Yeah, like historically, we would never say, hey, let me go collaborate with my software partners. Like 10 years ago, you would never say, like, I don't think I would have said that 10 years ago, but that's such a great point. And there's other great software partners out there that I would say the same about, but yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Well, we are going to link to the survey in the comments during this show. And so go and click that. Go and check out the survey results. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us on
Thank you
On
for
the
having me.
Margins. Thank you all for joining us as well. And of course, MVK, it's always a pleasure.
Same here.
And now it's time for trivia. So get ready. You're going to want to put your answers in the comments so that you could potentially win a Coupa pickleball set. Can't wait to see your answers.